Hey, this is Mr. Masonette. In this math video, we're going to practice working with a percentage problem. This problem is saying that 7 is 20% of some number, and we got to figure out what that number is. All right, so one way that we can solve is by setting up a proportion. Now, with the proportion dealing with percentages, I like to set it up as part of some whole is going to be equal to part to a whole. So with any proportion, when we set it up, we have to be consistent. So whatever order we do on the left, we have to do the same thing on the right. So part to whole is equal to part over a whole. Now, this problem here really gives us three numbers. So we can put the three numbers where they go in the four parts of our proportion and solve for the missing part of our proportion. So what we're going to do is set up our blank proportion like this. The given percent is 20, and 20 is the part. And remember, percentages are for each 100. So we're going to put 100 at the bottom. So 20% is 20 over 100. Now we have to figure out if this 7 goes on the top or the bottom. Now, one way to figure out if this is a part or a whole is just replace the percentage with the word part. We could say that 7 is part of some number. So we know that 7 is the part. So we put that on the top. All right, now what we have to do is figure out what this number is going to be. So 7 out of some total is going to be equivalent to 20 over 100. Now, there are so many ways that we can solve this proportion here. One way to do it is to recognize that with 20 over 100, that the denominator is 5 times bigger than its numerator. And with any proportional relationship, the same thing must be true with the other ratio. Therefore, this bottom number must be 5 times bigger than the top number. Therefore, x is equal to 35. And that is just one way that we can solve this problem. Another way is we could have taken our proportion, 7 out of some total being equal to 20 over 100, can be solved through cross multiplication. Remember, with equivalent fractions or equivalent ratios, that when you cross multiply, you get two equivalent values. So what we can say is that 20 times x, or 20x expressed algebraically, is equal to 7 times 100. Now we know that 7 times 100 is 700, so we have to figure out what would we multiply by 20 to make 700. So what we can do is just divide both sides by 20, and that will tell us what x is equal to. Now, what I like to do sometimes is actually divide before I actually multiply. Now, we can do 700 divided by 20, or what we can do is simplify a bit by canceling out a pair of zeros here. So now we have 10 divided by 2, which is 5. So we can cancel 10 over 2 to be just 5. Now we just have 7 times 5, which is equal to 35. Now, another way that we can solve this problem is by setting up an equation. So what we can do is take 20% and convert that into its decimal equivalent, which is 0.2. And we know multiplying that by whatever total or whole amount we have, and we'll just call that x for now, will be equal to 7. So this is another way of saying that 20% of some number is equal to 7. So what we can do now is divide both sides by 0.2. So if we divide 0.2 by itself, that cancels out, leaving us with x is equal to, so we just take 7 and divide that by 0.2. We have to move our decimal to the end, and we have to add a 0 because we made this number on the outside 10 times larger. So we make this 10 times larger. Place our decimal point here, and 2 goes into 70, exactly 35 times. So once again, x is equal to 35.